Alright, I'm sure many of you have already read and made videos on the article written by a reporter at the Wall Street Journal about dark themes in YA literature, and as a consensus of every video that I've watched, it is very ridiculous, and for it to be, this is kind of a thing too. The Wall Street Journal is a very highly respected newspaper, and for them to print something so ridiculous is kind of a hit on their integrity as well, because the article is pretty silly. Anyway, YA literature is not too dark. It is realistic reflection of our society today, and for people to be mad about what writers write about is kind of silly. So, as with a lot of people, I could go on and on, but I'll try to keep this video pretty short. But it's ridiculous, and my take on banning books and censorship is something I cannot stand, and I just don't like it. But anyway, the article just kind of starts off with this mother who wants to pick out a book for her child, and she's so upset over the selection of books. And I'm like, okay, for one, not every young adult book is dark. There's books that, like, for example, the Click series, okay? That's for roughly like ages 12 and up. Okay, that isn't considered dark. Sorry, I was just thinking so many different things. But anyway, so that part was just kind of silly. And it's like those people that overreact to something so small. Because when you go to a bookstore, okay, there's thousands of books to pick from. Alright, so you look at a title, that catches your eye, and then you read something as simple as this, the back. And if it's something that you don't like or you don't want your child to read, it is this simple. Don't buy it. Or you go to the copyright page and read. Sometimes some books have that little summary. Read that. And if it's something that you don't like, don't buy it. Don't take it away from somebody else, because books on like taboo subjects and harder subjects may in fact be helping someone else. Like they talk about a lot of self-mutilation. Well, that's very common, more common now in our society, because realistic fiction, such as the two books that I'm going to be using as examples, Burned by Ellen Hopkins and Living Dead Girl by Elizabeth Scott. These are contemporary realistic fictions in the young adult genre. And realistic fiction means it is a reflection of real life event, like things that are happening. It's a fictionalized story, but the events and stuff are in fact things that do happen. So, yes, and I think the kind of angle is people are projecting how they don't like how the young adult culture is now. But back to this self-mutilation thing. Okay, I think there was a book, I don't remember if it was in the article or not, because the article is pretty lengthy, but if you want to check it out and you haven't checked it out, there's a link down below. But anyway, there's a book I read, I think is what they mentioned too, it's Scars by, I don't know who it was, and how they think that the cover is too graphic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really, people? You're taking something so like simple and turning it into something that's ridiculous. But anyway, okay, Burned by Ellen Hopkins has a lot of topics in it. It's about abuse and ancestral relationships and family problems, and a lot of her books do in fact confront and explore topics that are heavy. And she's a very popular author in the YA genre, and I know why, because books like this can affect people differently. They can help someone who's in a similar situation or has felt a certain way, and it kind of offers like a kind of a comfort thing. Like, I'm sure many of you have books that you enjoy because they have an emotional meaning for you. And to ban a book, like to say, oh, I don't want this book in bookstores and stuff, that's taking away from something that could be helping somebody. And my favorite book by her, by the way, is Tricks. And I just love that book. Yes, it's about prostitution, but to me, that's just it's interesting. Obviously, I'm not doing those things, but it's interesting to read about. As a young person in this world, it's a interesting thing to read about. And I know I'm not a teenager anymore, but I'm a young adult, and just reading about those things are just very interesting because it's things that happen all around us. All around us. And for me, books by her are not considered dark. They're realistic, and young adults do enjoy books that are realistic. Another example, which a lot of people probably are going to be offended by this book, Living Dead Girl by Elizabeth Scott. This book is extremely graphic and disturbing, but it is fascinating because it is something that is plausible in our world. Our society now is filled with a lot of violence, self-mutilation, drugs, rape, sex, those kinds of things, and that's just it. That's our society now. You look at like the 60s and 70s, the issues were there. It's just not as common. And as society changes and evolves, authors are going to write about contemporary things. And there's a book they talked about, Rage, that just came out this year, which sounds so good, and it's on my to-be-read list. But yes, it talks about and it faces I just lost my train of thought. Like, not dark. I don't want to say it's dark because it's not. It's true to our society now in the year 2011. It's just so frustrating because it's like, okay, I don't want books to be banned. Like, my library I'm very grateful that my library purchases and has books from so many different topics, and they're not afraid to shelve books that could be considered controversial or something. And I like that because for me, every author has something to share with to share. And like, taking that's my thing. When you complain about a book, or you want to try to ban a book from someplace, you're taking something away from somebody else that could be beneficial. And to say that, you read about, for example, what was the book? Willow, by Julie Hoban or something Hoban. That was about a girl who cuts herself. Okay, I read that book. Does it think that I want to go do it? No. Young people today find it very interesting to read about issues like that. That's just because it's all around them. It's just so frustrating. And then I thought of this example because it's a book that I'm reading now, and it kind of fits into what I want to say. Okay, this book, Family, by Mikhail Ostow, is historical fiction. Okay, and this is about a 17-year-old girl who gets involved with the occult, similar to Charles Manson's family. It's very similar, just different characters. And there's a lot of dark things in there. So are they going to complain about this book even though it is historical fiction? I don't know. I would be curious to know, because even in historical fiction books such as that, there are considered dark topics and things like drugs and free love, where you are sleeping with everybody. And yeah, are they going to complain about that book? Really? It's kind of disappointing too, coming from a respectable newspaper, that you're going to complain about what is it? The dark themes. It's not dark. Yes, vampires and like supernatural is a big thing too. But that is, that's fantasy. That's like, I don't know. I really don't know. It's just like years ago when Harry Potter first came out, how people wanted to ban Harry Potter. I think there's always going to be people that are going to complain about something because they want everything to be neatly wrapped up in a package and to be user friendly, and I don't know. And it's like, when you buy books or you see what your child is buying and reading, you may want, if you're that concerned, then you need to be a parent and do something about it. And also, I think some books say this on the back down here. This one doesn't, but I'm just saying. I know some books sometimes say for ages blah blah blah, or you need to monitor what they're reading. And it's like, I don't think, unless you're an at-risk person, like with some mental issues, I don't think reading about a kidnapping, isn't going to turn you into a kidnapper or someone who wants to abuse someone else. It just doesn't happen that way. And what is it going to do, really? Unless you are mentally disturbed, obviously it may have some consequences, but really now? It's so frustrating. But anyway, that was my video on this. I have been wanting to make a video on this because I've watched so many videos of people talking about it, and it just gets me so fired up because it's ridiculous. And I really don't want books to be banned from places, because that's just not cool. Yeah. So that is my rant on the Wall Street Journal's crazy article. Yeah, and I really hope that the reporter kind of feels silly taking that angle and making a big deal about nothing. So thank you for watching. I want to hear some more comments and stuff. And yes, sorry this video is so long, but there's just so much to say. So thanks for watching. Bye.